Good afternoon, everyone. Please rise for the presentation of colors and the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And ladies and gentlemen, while you're standing, this past week we lost a Columbus police officer, Jason Jackson, also the son of the former chief. Please join me in a moment of silence in his honor. And now I ask you to remain standing because we are going to have the Invocation by Bishop Roy Lysaf.
If you'd bow your heads. Most precious and holy Father, it is by your grace that we are gathered together today to celebrate the life and legacy of your daughter, Kim Jacobs, who has finished what you sent her here to do. As she retires from this mission and prepares to respond to your call for her next mission, let us honor her achievements. Your word teaches us in Romans 13 and 7 to render honor to whom honor is due. So over the next few moments, we will endeavor to fulfill your instructions as we honor Chief Jacobs with our words, deeds, and sentiment. We ask your blessing over this gathering as we express what Chief Jacobs means to each of us as individuals and to us as a whole corporate body. May she feel the love that we have and respect that we have for her. May she see and feel the impact that she has had over the Division of Police and the great city of Columbus. You have allowed us to become better because of the example that she has set. Allow your daughter to be at great peace with her success here. She has been a beacon of inspiration during very difficult times, while at the very same time remaining grounded. She has never lost sight of her purpose, and for that we are better. You have granted her great wisdom. A good leader knows they may not know everything, but surrounds themselves with the quality people who can help to gain the knowledge necessary so the mission can be successful. This is what she has always done. The burden was on her shoulders to make that final decision, but she has been wise enough to never rush to judgment. These are godly traits demonstrated by her as a sign of your presence working in her. We thank you for this amazing gift that you've given to the Division of Police, to the city of Columbus, and to this great state of Ohio. Bless us to celebrate her in a manner commensurate with who she is and who she has been for each of us. Even as she prepares to pass the torch of leadership to another, allow her to see the enduring impression she has impeccably imprinted on this body of law enforcement, and the comfort to know we carry that part of her with pride, professionalism, respect, integrity, discipline, and enthusiasm. The very first expression that has become a foundation of who we are as a body of law enforcement. It is in the name of Jesus that we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend. Well, please be seated and welcome to this ceremony that honors the life, the service, the dedication of outgoing Police Chief Kim Jacobs. Can we just start with a round of applause for Chief Jacobs? am your MC for the day. My name is Colleen Marshall. I'm very happy to be here with you. We also want to thank some of our other distinguished guests that you see here on the stage. Don't point at me, Mike Coleman. We welcome Andrew Ginther, the mayor of Columbus, the former mayor, Mike Coleman, Shannon Hardin, president of council, council member Mitchell Brown. We also have Barbara Brandt, I believe, with us today, some of the other leaders of the police force. Please welcome our dignified guests who are on the stage today. I think I skipped Ned Pettis, the director of safety. I don't want to skip you, Ned. I don't want you to get mad at me, get somebody to give me a ticket. I also want to thank the family and friends who have come today, and in our front row especially is the family of Chief Jacobs. If I could ask her wife Bobby, her mom, her sisters are here. Please stand and be recognized for all that you've done for Chief Jacobs. Also, her son and her brother are here with us. It was one brother, 4 girls. He never went to the bathroom his entire teenage years. Very few people know that. But we welcome you. We're going to begin today with remarks from the boss of the chief, Columbus Mayor Andrew Ginther.
Good afternoon. What a great day for our city to celebrate. I was celebrating the life of Clarence Lumpkin, a giant in our community, this morning, and was seated next to former Mayor Coleman. And so we're going a little off script here, because I thought, in addition to hearing from myself about the great work of the chief, you should hear from the person who appointed her to that position in the first place. So please welcome former Mayor Michael B. Coleman.
Let me just say how proud I am of the chief. So proud of her. I was there at the beginning, and now I'm here at the end. And I want to let you know that the reason I picked you and Mitch Brown together, and we worked together in selecting you, is because, first of all, you were ready for prime time. You earned it, you deserved it, and you were a person and are a person to lead from the front. You didn't step in the shadows and let everybody else do all the work and then come out. You led from the front, and it's the toughest job in America, is to be a police chief of a major urban division of police. And to run this department, the very best in the nation. I want to let you know, Kim, I call you Chief. I'll call you Kim tomorrow. Chief, is that you help make a great division even better. Thank you for your service. God bless you. I'm so, so proud of you for all that you've done.
Thank you, Mayor Coleman. Today you're going to hear many of the accomplishments of Chief Jacobs. I'm glad I get to go first. With that, let us celebrate some of the great accomplishments of Chief Jacobs' career. She broke glass ceilings. She was the first woman promoted to commander, the first female deputy chief, the first female chief of police in Columbus. and one of only a handful in all of America. Chief Jacobs did not pull up the ladder after she ascended it. She made increasing diversity a priority for the division. She established diversity and inclusion officer positions to better serve communities of color, New Americans, Muslims, and the LGBTQ community. The last 2 recruit classes have been the most diverse and the highest scoring classes ever. Chief Jacobs also conducted exemplary work in implicit bias training for officers that received national recognition. She led the city in signing on to the One Mind campaign to improve police response to people affected by mental illness. She also made crisis intervention training mandatory for all new police recruits. Both of these efforts help to improve the safety of our residents, our officers, and those in mental health crisis. Chief Jacobs was absolutely instrumental in one of our biggest initiatives and priorities, the successful implementation of body-worn cameras that have proven to be an important tool in keeping the police and the public safe, an effort that is being copied and studied by divisions and cities across America. Chief, I'd also like to take a moment to thank your wife, Bobby, and your sons, Pete and Sam, because we know that public service is a family commitment. And Chief Jacobs, for all that you have done for the city of Columbus, for the people of this great city, and all of the officers who have worked with you and for you. Thank you. I'm going to ask the Jacobs family, Bobby and the sons, Mom, if you can, join us and the chief and former Mayor Coleman and I over here to unveil a surprise to her and I think to all of you. Please join us up on stage. Since I didn't study AV, I guess I'm anchored here at this microphone. But I'm going to ask if Mom and the chief's sons will pull that curtain off of that placard there. I'm proud to announce that as a lasting testament to your lifetime of service, we will be naming the new substation in Lozelle Woods the Far North Kimberley Jacobs Neighborhood Policing Center.
Well, Shannon Harden is going to have trouble topping that one. But he's going to give it a go. Please join me in welcoming to the stage the President of Columbus City Council, Shannon G. Harden.
Yes, it is always difficult to follow our mayor and then to do mayor squared and then to do an unveiling. I want to thank Colleen and thank Mayor Ginther and Mayor Coleman for those words and for this dedication. Certainly on behalf of my colleagues, I thought I saw Councilmember Remy, who is here, and our Chair of Public Safety on Council, Mitch Brown, who you'll hear from in a second. It's hard to reflect on Chief Jacobs' career and not feel struck by her sacrifice. Chief Jacobs has been a Columbus police officer longer than I have been alive. I'm not as young as I look, but...
That was rude.
Chief Jacobs' brand of leadership has been selfless. Chief Jacobs didn't spend her early mornings or late nights pursuing personal accolades. That time away from her family and her loved ones was being spent building a vision for the public safety and working to implement that vision. Chief Jacobs told a story at council the other night about coming in for her interview for chief with a 4-page plan. That plan, she said, she would do in the first weeks, the months, and the years if she was selected. Chief Jacobs' service to this city was built around that vision. But what is also special about Chief is that she doesn't just have big ideas that don't go anywhere. Her eyes for process, procedure, and best practices is unparalleled. She wanted this division to be the best safety force in the nation, and she did it. I hope that young people can aspire to serve as Chief Jacobs has. I hope that Chief Jacobs' selfless brand of dedication to both her brothers and sisters in uniform and to this city can be instilled in the young people of our city. And as an elected official, I often say, we don't serve to get elected, yet we get elected to serve. This city has given so much to so many. I believe that to those that much is given, much is owed. We owe a debt of gratitude to our families, our neighbors, our city, and to the servant leader like Chief Jacobs. It is incumbent upon us to tell the story of true public servants, to pass down the sense of duty, that commitment. As a public servant at the beginning of my career, I look up to Chief Jacobs for inspiration. I hope that each one of us can internalize what Chief Jacobs has known her entire life, that public service is sacrifice, but it's an honor. The other night I also said that there's a historic nature to Chief's work, her career, but the important part about making history and being the first is not in the work that you do as much, but it's in the children that get to look and to follow and say, because of her, so can I. Will you help me honor our Chief, Chief Jacobs?
Thank you so much, Shannon. We also want to acknowledge that we have other people from other agencies and from federal, state, and local partners who are with us today. So thank you all for coming out. And if you are a member of the executive staff or the general staff or the chief, could you stand up, because we know she's partnered with you for many years, and we thank you for your service as well. Is the executive staff here? Yes. Thank you for your service. Now we're going to hear from the chair of the Public Safety Committee of Columbus City Council, Mitchell J. Brown.
Thank you, Colleen, and of course, Mayor Ginther and Mayor Coleman. Nice for both of you to be here this afternoon. For the last 7 years, a suit of armor has stood in office on the 8th floor of police headquarters. As an ode to her maiden name, Knight, Chief Kimberley Jacobs presented this ancient symbol of service and protection as a reminder for her responsibility to the residents of Columbus. Much like the medieval knight, Kim watched over our city, its residents, humbly and sincerely during her tenure as chief. Today, we appreciate her dedication to service and remember the legacy of a trailblazer in the Columbus Division of Police. Historically, policing has had a tough guy mentality. Throughout the history of the division, women have played an important role, but were always limited by the challenges of operating within an organization dominated by men. Dolly Fisher was the first woman to join the police division in 1921. While she created a space for women in law enforcement, she tragically never received the distinction of police officer and never received a promotion. Decades later, Mary Lasser became the first female African-American police officer in the division. But by 1979, when Kim joined the Division of Police, many people, including division officers, still didn't feel women could be effective police officers. Kim stood on the shoulders of these women that came before her, but there was still work to be done on improving the role of women in law enforcement. From the beginning of her career, Kim has proven to be a catalyst in shifting that perspective. Her recruit class was comprised of the most female cadets in division history then and now. Being a part of a historic group of 18 women was the only beginning for Kim, as her intelligence and her curiosity has prompted her to accomplish more than any woman in the division's history. She went on to become the first woman to serve as commander, deputy chief, and finally, chief of police. Being the first to hold the position of power always comes with challenges and expectations. It takes a special visionary to refine their limitations through their leadership. By confronting this criticism, Kim opened up opportunities for women within the division to seek and obtain promotions. Kim has always been a person of strong values and moral character, instilled in her by her parents, Calvin and Dottie. Combining that character with the division's core values, she has forever shaped how female officers are viewed in the division. Those in positions of power can be classified as managers or leaders. Managers always try to do things right. Leaders always try to do the right thing. While Kim's commitment to improving organizational structures made her a strong manager, her character and attention to relationships have made her a conscious leader for the Division of Police. While Kim blazed the trail for so many female officers to follow her, this is not why we recognize her today. We recognize her for the impact she has made on policing in Columbus and across the country during her tenure. As many of you know, in my former life, I had the pleasure of recommending Kim for the position of Chief of Police to Mayor Coleman. We selected her not because I was trying to make a statement, but because she was clearly the best person for the job. I am proud of how she has been able to use her platform to be a change agent for the better. Under her leadership, Columbus has reconsidered the role and makeup of our police division. From her efforts to enhance transparency to her focus on community policing and implicit bias-based training, Kim recognized that policing is first and foremost community service. I believe Kim embodies the words of a former chief posted on a plaque at the entrance of this academy. Service is the rent we pay for the privilege of living on earth. These words were originally uttered by another visionary, Shirley Chisholm, the first African-American woman to serve in the United States Congress and to run for president. Kim correctly focused on this service as chief. Through her ability to communicate, resolve conflict, and express compassion, Kim has made a lasting and positive impact on the division and has left a legacy on this community for years to come. I am confident her rent has been paid. In closing, I would like to commend Kim for serving our city with the purpose to protect, with the passion to preserve, and with the utmost pride in your performance. Thank you for taking advantage of your opportunity to make Columbus a safer and more welcoming place for its residents. Throughout my career, I've been closely associated, some would say married, to multiple police chiefs and patrol superintendents. Just like any strong marriage, dedication to developing a relationship built on trust and appreciation for one another is paramount to weathering the storms that will inevitably come. Kim and I have certainly navigated our share. Today is with a heavy heart that I absolve this marriage with you, Kim. She's all yours now, Bobby. Thank you for sharing her with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilman Brown. Please join me now in welcoming the Director of Public Safety, Ned Pettis. It's a long walk. Welcome.
Thank you, Colleen. And thank you, Councilman Brown, for your role in selection of Chief Jacobs when you were the safety director. Today is a very bittersweet day, a day of celebration and sadness as we reflect on the accomplishments of Chief Kim Jacobs, the culmination of 39 years of dedicated service to the City of Columbus and the public we serve. I would especially like to thank her for stepping forward as chief for 7 of those years, and in spite of the inequities we know she had to face over her career, she remained dedicated, committed, and conscientious about her role as she rose through the ranks. I became fire chief 6 weeks after 9/11 occurred to take the helm of a fire department at a time when it was recently realized that no department was prepared for a large-scale attack. I look back at how far we've come since that challenging day, and I became Director of Public Safety during challenging times in the summer of 2016. And Chief Jacobs placed me on an accelerated learning plan. She was very helpful during the transition, providing me with the briefing book she prepared for City Council and the mayor. She was always available for calls, ever patient in explaining police protocol, policy, and implications. She was always accessible after hours for necessary updates. Chief Jacobs has fostered an environment of conscientious leadership within her organization as it pertains to her care and concern for the members of the division and the public we serve. I got to observe firsthand the engagement she had with the community as I joined her in many of the over 300 community events, meetings, and speaking engagements she attended. She was always authentic and personal in her interactions, fostering trust and transparency. As Commander of Internal Affairs, she overhauled the Bureau, making numerous changes, creating efficiency and alignment with best practices. Prior to being chief, she proposed a new staffing format for redistricting patrol that was initially met with pushback from the union, but through consensus building was successfully implemented, resulting in better placement of resources in our growing city. Chief Jacobs, as the mayor mentioned, embraced his priority for body-worn cameras, achieving implementation ahead of schedule and under budget. These are just a few examples of the many progressive initiatives she managed, which have built trust and changed the way some of our residents view police. Lastly, I saw in Chief Jacobs her dedication to the division was such that she started a succession plan several years ago. She mentored her 6 deputy chiefs by rotating them in assignments for a broad range of experience and by rotating the acting chief position in her absence. Those moves ensured that any of them were capable of stepping up to keep the division running 24/7, 365 upon her retirement. Leadership, including succession planning and doing the right things because she has the best interests of the community and her officers in mind, have been the hallmark of her career. Chief, we have all heard the saying, "Don't let the grass grow under your feet." You may not remember the last time you felt the grass under your feet, but please, promise you will allow that to occur, even if only for a short period of time. You have earned it. Congratulations on your legendary career and your retirement. It's been an honor to work with you, and thank you from the bottom of my heart.
I had the chance to interview the chief a few weeks ago about the end of her career in law enforcement, and there's much has been said about shattering the glass ceiling, about being the first woman. But she spoke with pride of all of the women and men that have served with her and under her as she was chief. And she said it didn't matter to be the first unless there were other women who followed. And so we're going to hear from one of those young, promising women right now, the Internal Affairs Bureau Lieutenant, Amy Haley.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Today I have the privilege of honoring Chief Kim Jacobs. How does a lieutenant who came on nearly 20 years after the chief have anything of value to say on the occasion of her retirement? Well, maybe it won't be of value to every ear, but I do hope, Chief, that my words bless you. Having spent the first 14 years of a career on patrol with little to no contact with anyone in executive or general staff, you develop a lot of opinions about how those that run the organization should operate. It's easy to criticize those in authority, especially when you've never walked a step in their shoes. World leaders, politicians, pastors, football referees, and police officers alike are judged on a world stage minute by minute. You can say what you want and believe what you want without knowing the facts. You would think that being in a profession that is criticized daily, we would have a less critical view of our own. Well, you might, but I didn't. I failed to remember that all authority comes from God, and those in positions of authority have been placed there by God. While I applied the Bible's direction to respect worldly authorities to my own position, as many in authority often do, I failed to recognize that that same sovereignty applies to those placed in authority over me. 8 years ago, I found myself in an administrative assignment with direct access to and collaboration with Chief Jacobs. When you work side by side with the authority charged with making the ultimate decisions, you lose the ability to sit in judgment. You see firsthand the extreme ownership that must take place when making the weighty decisions of the office of Chief of Police. You see that the position is filled by a person that is pouring themselves into the position with all their time, energy, knowledge, and heart. A person that has feelings and can be hurt, but doesn't show it. A person that is a mother to her own children, but is now responsible for the actions of and to nearly 2,400 additional charges, not to mention the nearly 1 million citizens she has sworn to serve and protect. Chief Jacobs isn't calling Amy Haley to share her feelings, but I've learned a lot about her just by observing. Chief, I have watched people come and go during your tenure. I have seen you bear the weight of responsibility when one of us makes a mistake. I have seen you bear the sorrow and grief over the senseless murder of Officer Steve Smith. And like a sunrise, I've seen you grow to love this organization and the city of Columbus more than ever. You demonstrate what Jim Collins calls the level 5 leader. In Good to Great, Collins defines the level 5 leader as one who displays a powerful mixture of personal humility and unstoppable will. They are incredibly ambitious, but their ambition is first and foremost for the cause, for the organization and its purpose, not themselves. This level 5 leader exemplifies Jesus' words found in the Gospel of Matthew. No one can serve two masters, for you will either hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. Chief, you have not loved the position of Chief of Police over the ideals that the office stands for. I know this because you have demonstrated truth over convenience, fairness over personal preference, and loyalty to your oath over the expectations of others. You have read word for word every policy and procedure your signature is attached to, and you've changed not quite every word of each of those policies. Not in an effort to change for change's sake, but in an effort to create policy that best protects the officer, the division, and the city. You have left this agency and this city far better for it. You have demonstrated that every member of the Division of Police is equal in value. This dedication to equality within the division serves to unify a set apart and sometimes isolating profession. Working for the Columbus Division of Police, I've had the gift of not thinking about my gender in a male-majority profession. I say gift because I am convicted that I have taken this view for granted. I was recently privileged to participate in a 2-day National Institute for Justice Research Forum on women in policing in Washington, D.C. Nearly 100 women law enforcement leaders across the United States, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and the United Kingdom convened to discuss the advancement of women in policing. I didn't know what to expect. I'm a female police lieutenant, and the chief of police is a woman. How much more advanced does it get? I walked away thanking God for my experience at CPD. The women in attendance shared experiences that are happening to them today, not 30 or 40 years ago. Things that are now a memory at CPD, such as being relegated to stereotypical female roles as they climb the ranks and normalize sexual harassment in sexist environments. Chief Jacobs, like an overprivileged child, I did not see how the path you created cleared an easier path for me. I have had the opportunity to be a police officer at CPD, not a female police officer, just a police officer. Thank you for paving the way through the ranks for me and countless others, for those currently wearing the badge and for the generations that will follow you. I honor you today for consistently choosing the uncleared path for the good of this city, the division, and for law enforcement. You have labored for the good of us all. Well done.
Chief Jacobs has pledged to continue supporting and working with the Columbus Police Foundation for the amazing work that they do. And joining us now to talk more about that is Barbara Brandt. I know, it's a long, quiet walk over.
Yes, it is. Excuse me.
Welcome.
Good afternoon to all of you. I'm really honored to be here today to speak about my friend, Kim Jacobs. I know we're supposed to call her Chief, but to me, she's Kim, and very special, as is Bobby. I got involved with the Columbus Police Foundation when Ron Linville from Baker Hostetler gave me a call and said, "Do you think perhaps you could give them a little hand for a while?" He was trying to manage so much and still be managing partner of his law firm. Well, I was delighted, a little nervous. I didn't know too many chiefs of police. In fact, I didn't know any. And I was very anxious to meet this woman. Who would ever dream in Columbus, Ohio, we'd have a chief of police who was a woman? But I know Michael Coleman, and I know he makes good decisions. So I was anxious to meet Kim Jacobs. When I first met her, I was startled at the fact that someone could give an entire lifetime to one organization. It wasn't 39, almost 40 years at that point, but it was in the mid-30s. And I was anxious to understand how you do that in a public situation. Well, I learned very quickly that my friend Kim Jacobs is a dedicated person who is a public servant in the truest word. As I stand here today and I look out at all of you, most of you are doing public service. You really are. You are public servants, but you're called police officers, you're called mayors, you're called city council presidents, you're called directors of agencies, and you're called corporate leaders who really care about what happens in our great city. I must tell you that working with Chief Jacobs and her dedicated staff who are sitting over here has enriched my life in so many ways. It has made me more grateful for all who serve our community. I have observed relationships that exemplify camaraderie and respect at the highest level one could ever imagine. But I ask you, how do you recognize and how do you celebrate a dedicated life to public service like Kim Jacobs? Well, I guess I'd begin after I read all the information that Charlie Waldenga sent me about her early years. I'd begin by saying thank you as a young, fresh, new officer. Thank you for protecting and patrolling the Hilltop and Franklinton and the west side of our community for 8 years. That was her first assignment. I would say thank you for your diligence and for your patience to rise through the ranks from officer to sergeant to lieutenant to commander to deputy to chief, and still staying pretty hopeful and creative through it all. That's a big job. I'd say thank you for always seeking ways to advance the careers of the men and women you work with, looking for special training opportunities. And thank you for always keeping these very same people uppermost in your mind every day as they went to work. I noticed that, and it made a big impression on me. I'd say thank you for being a leader in our community, for reaching out beyond your career, for lending a hand to the Adam Board, to the Sports Commission when we were trying to bring the Final Four to our community, and for addressing issues of human trafficking and domestic violence and safety in our schools. I'd say thank you for the marvelous programs that you and the Columbus Police Foundation have initiated. I'm confident that they will have long-lasting impact on our community and all of you police officers here today. Huge accomplishments, and you've set expectations very high. But you know, life's accomplishments are tallied up and appraised in a lot of ways and through numerous actions. I know your chief as a mother who raised 2 young men sitting in the front row to be respectful and responsible citizens of our community, one a fellow officer of yours. I know your chief as a woman who deeply cares for each and every one of you and your families, and who grieves, truly grieves, when one of you is injured or one of you is taken from service. I know your chief as a devoted friend, a daughter, a partner, a church choir member, and a community leader in our city. And I know for certain that your chief is ever seeking to make each and every one of us safe and respected by all people. Chief Jacobs and I and the Columbus Police Foundation, led by Jennifer Edwards from Baker Hostetler, have worked together on the trips to DC. And I see that Don Garlikoff is here too, who was one of the first supporters of our trips. And I will tell you that I have watched many of you who have attended, over 250 police officers to date, thanks to Charlie Waldenga and the good work out of his office. I have watched as we've come into Shanksville, Pennsylvania, as you bowed your heads in respect for those who lost their lives in Flight 93. I have seen the shock and the pain on your faces, true shock and pain, as you toured the U.S. Holocaust Museum and the National African American History Museum. And I have watched as you reflected upon the terror and the social injustice that can be visited upon us through bad leadership. and I have seen you quietly show respect for the men and women police officers who have given their lives throughout the country when we visit the National Police Memorial. This is Chief Jacobs' concept of training and education. You feel it, you see it, you live it, and you think about it. As a private citizen, I thank each and every one of you for supporting this mission conceived by Chief Jacobs' vision and sensitivity. All this has happened in truly the Columbus way. I thank Mayor Coleman for bringing to and appointing Kim Jacobs as our chief. I thank Mayor Ginther, City Council President Hardin, Deputy Safety Director. I thank all of those who made it possible for her to serve in her role and to feel supported. I thank Kim Jacobs' family. I've gotten to know her mom. I don't know her boys as well as I'd like to, but I've heard an awful lot about them over the last 5 or 6 years. I thank you for sharing your daughter and your mother with our city for almost 4 decades. And I thank Kim Jacobs, my friend, for the life lessons that she has taught me. I am grateful to the Columbus Police Foundation and for the opportunity to build this wonderful friendship with such an extraordinary woman. I wish my friend Kim Jacobs and her family good health, abundant joy, and I salute her leadership.
Thank you so much, Barbara. You know, over the years, I have come to know Chief Jacobs as being someone who deals very effectively with the media. And, you know, let's be honest, you don't always want to deal with us. And one of the people who has been the face of that effort, who I've gotten to know very well over the last few years, is going to be speaking to you right now. Please join me in welcoming Sergeant Rich Weiner.
She mouthed to me like she always did, "Man, that's a long walk." It is a long walk. Bear with me. I promise you I will be brief as we are near the end of this ceremony. But at this time, I would like the chief to join me right here. That's an order. That might be the last time that I get to tell the chief what to do. Right there is good, thank you. All right. As Colleen said, I used to be, I was the PIO for just over 10 years for the division. I do have some scripted remarks, but Council Member Brown, as he always did, stole about 1/3 of those. So I thank you, sir, as always. You're a tough act to follow. But with that being said, I want to talk about my time as PIO. I would be up here numerous times during award ceremonies, promotion ceremonies, and I would constantly talk about family. And that's members of our division that would be up here getting an award or being promoted. Their family members were sitting in the same seats that you are today. With that being said, I would like to ask Bobby to please join us on stage. And you can stand wherever you want. Like I said, I talked about family, and the division is steeped in tradition. As you look before you, standing along the wall, the honor guard members, we are family. When you first come on, you're paired up with a partner. You rely on that partner to go home at night. You rely on that partner to share your good days and your bad days. As PIO, I was given a task to talk about the division's message. And with that, you're a direct report to the Chief of Police. It's all about messaging, delivering the good messages and delivering the bad messages. So as a direct report, oftentimes I would go to her office, which I will say, her door was always open. You'd go to the door, you'd walk in, and she'd look at me, and she didn't know what she was going to get. Most of the time, it was good, but sometimes you'd have to whisper in her ear if she was with someone else and say, hey, I need a moment. That's what partners do. You back each other up. As a direct report, she was my partner. She was my chief, but she was my partner. That's pretty tough. It's a tough act when you see your partner agonizing over maybe some discipline that she has to issue to an officer, weighing what is good for the division, for the citizens, but what is also good for this officer. Can this officer be saved? Was it a mistake? Was it out of malice? Those are tough decisions, especially when you have public opinion that you have to deal with. I can honestly tell you, those decisions were never made lightly by her. She agonized over them. It was not something she took lightly. I would constantly hear her talk about the mission statement, as Councilmember Brown mentioned before. And that's something I'll read to you. The mission statement for the division. We are in service with the purpose to protect, the passion to persevere, and with the utmost pride in our performance. She would constantly talk about those remarks. And it would just come off of her tongue like she was ordering something off of the Eastern Bay menu. And if you don't know, if I said, hey, Chief, you want to go to lunch or something? She's like, yeah, I know just a place. We'd go right down to Eastern Bay. She would talk about professionalism, respect, integrity, and discipline, and enthusiasm. Professionalism is demonstrating excellence with leadership, cooperation, dedication, and attention to detail. I can tell you, she demonstrated this quality, whether talking about policy, having to make tough decisions, or putting in the extra time in the office. That was her professionalism. Respect, demonstrating appreciation for human dignity, diversity, and individual rights while holding reverence for human life above all else. When there was a use of force decision or a loss of life, the chief took that, it weighed upon her heavily. She wanted to make sure that her personnel were doing the right thing. So those decisions, she showed respect for human dignity by not taking that light. Integrity, consistently adhering to honesty and ethical behavior and accepting responsibility for our actions. She stood like a champ. She was the chief. Whatever our officers did, she owned it. She was the leader. That was a burden that she took to heart. Discipline, exhibiting proper conduct and self-control in the face of adversity through a commitment to training and organizational standards. It's already been talked about, the training. She trained more than anybody else. It's like a SWAT officer training to shoot, to go kick in the door. She put in the work hours, and she made sure that we had the opportunity to do the training and have the best training in the country. Enthusiasm, serving with passion and sense of urgency to make a difference in our community. Not only did she make a difference in our community, she made a difference throughout the division. The countless hours that I saw, I would come in early in the morning, her door is open. I'd leave late at night, her door was open. I'd like to see that timesheet because she filled it out. With that being said, I am near the end. I would like to give my gift to you and Bobby. That is for you. Can you tell me what that is, please? It's a blank sheet of paper. It's not a substation. But it is something better. From one partner to the other. You've written numerous pages for the history book. Now it's time to fill these blank pages with memories of your life together with your partner after CPD. Congratulations.
Thanks for making me cry, Rich. We have one final surprise speaker that the chief is not aware of. I would like to welcome to the stage her son, Officer Peter Jacobs.
I don't want to look over there. Well, I don't know if this counts as a speech, but what they said. All right, no, I got more. Finally, my day has come. I'm no longer the chief's son. My name is Pete. I'm going to keep this light because the lights are really bright up here, and I don't like doing this, but I want to thank everyone for being here. This is truly a special day. It's been a special 40 years, to be honest. I have a few orders of business before I get to the emotional stuff. I'm going to open this dialogue up to new applications for e-time. I don't know if everyone knows what e-time is, but it's executive time that executive staff gets while they work. Well, I would get a monthly stipend of that too, because that's just how being the chief's son works. So to the executive staff, you got my number. All right, I've become used to a certain standard of living with it. And I don't want her leaving to interfere with that. All right. Now another piece of business I have to take care of now that I have this stage to kind of air some grievances. My unit and I, 8C, 8 Precinct, which you were a part of, my dad was a part of too. Not C Company because they couldn't handle it, but we have a few suggestions, okay? For one, the 10 or so turtlenecks that are burning a hole in my shelf that the city paid for, we'd like them back. All right? You have 2 days, right? All right, I've been instructed by the older men on my precinct that they want reimbursed for the beanies that they purchased that you got rid of. That's them saying, not me. So how did redistricting go? Was that a fun time for you? That was before my time, so. All right, so now to the a little more serious stuff. What I'm going to say is, I never really felt like I had a chief. It's just kind of been, it's an odd position to be in, to be the chief's son, especially being a lowly patrol officer. But I want to tell you a story, and it kind of fits that. I probably shouldn't tell it, but if there's any training staff in here, bear with me. It was actually my first day in the academy. Hectic day, everyone's running around, running blindly. Well, somehow, some way, I don't know how this happened, but on the second floor of the training academy, all the recruits have to post. It's called post. You have to stand up against the lockers when an officer or anybody walks by. Somehow, some way, I ended up by myself on that floor, and sure enough, who walks around the corner? Now, it's my first day, and I see my mom, and I just keep walking, right? I mean, it's my mom. At that time, it was 22 years of, hey, what's up? So I keep my little strut, I'm kind of, didn't know what to do, and I'm just smiling and walking towards her. After 5-10 seconds, I can see her mouthing, post. And I'm like, what? Eventually I got it. I probably freaked out, but then I'm getting okay, well, it's just me and her. Who's she gonna tell? All right. But anyway, so that kind of gives you an example. I've always just seen her as my mom. It's hard, to take that out of my everyday. I'm going to miss showing up to roll call and hearing from guys about what she did. I'd be like, well, that's news to me. I didn't hear that. Pit policy? I don't like that. But anyway. So, just one more thing. I saw over the weekend, I don't read the paper. I try not to check the news because to me, it's just not part of my life. But I was handed the Columbus Dispatch. And the title of it was Complicated Legacy. That's not true. It's not. If you ask everyone up here, everyone that knows her, it's honorable, admirable, and courageous. That's it.
That was better than an episode of Blue Bloods. Thank you so much, Peter, and I hope you enjoyed your surprise, Chief. I know you didn't know that was coming. We have some honored dignitaries here who are going to make a few presentations before we wrap things up today. And I would like to first of all welcome to the stage Benjamin Glassman, who is the United States Attorney for the Southern District of Ohio. Mr. Glassman, thank you for being with us.
Columbus Division leadership has been an invaluable and extraordinary partner for the U.S. Attorney's Office and for federal law enforcement generally as we work together to make Central Ohio, the country, and the world a safer and fairer place. Now, as the U.S. Attorney, it's my honor and responsibility to speak on behalf of the United States here in the Southern District of Ohio. So therefore, Chief, on behalf of the United States, for your service, for your commitment, for your leadership, and for your partnership, thank you.
From the Federal Bureau of Investigations, we have with us today Joseph M. Deters, the Assistant Special Agent in charge in the Cincinnati Field Office of the FBI. Mr. Deters, thank you for being with us.
Chief Jacobs, on behalf of the United States Department of Justice, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, we're proud to recognize Chief Kimberley Jacobs of the Columbus Division of Police for your many years of distinguished service in law enforcement and your selfless efforts to protect and serve the American public. You have always recognized that a key to combating crime is unstinting cooperation among law enforcement agencies at all levels of government. The FBI and the American people have been the beneficiaries of your professionalism and dedication to duty, and we congratulate you on a remarkable career. Signed, Director of FBI, Christopher A. Wray.
From the Drug Enforcement Administration, Mauricio Jimenez is the Assistant Special Agent in charge, Detroit Field Division, and the Resident Agent in charge is Matthew Hufelder from the Columbus District Office. We welcome them to the stage.
Well, since Mr. Glassman spoke on behalf of the whole United States, on behalf of the Drug Enforcement Administration, Detroit Division, and the Columbus District Office, to Chief Kimberley Jacobs, Columbus Division of Police, in appreciation of your continued partnership with the DEA, unrelenting commitment to fighting drug trafficking, and dedication to protecting the citizens of Columbus. Thank you. Thank you for your service, and congratulations.
Thank you very much. Up next, Deputy Chief Tom Quinlan, and from Homeland Security, George Dulce, will be presenting us a gift today. Welcome.
Chief Jacobs, I'd like to say congratulations to you on a long, courageous, great service. We want to thank you from the Department of Homeland Security, Michigan, Ohio. Thank you for your time.
I appreciate that.
Chief, I know you're running out of wall space and shelf space. However, I thought there was one other gift that you might be able to find room for, because it'll probably have a nice honored place in your home. Anyone that knows Chief Jacobs knows her history with the Ohio State University, graduating, being a athlete there, varsity athlete on the track team, and also being a season ticket holder for football. I know that's a passion that you go and love the Buckeyes. So with that in mind, and help with thanks of Commander Jen Knight and Chief Kimberly Spears McNabb from OSU. We called in a few favors. After all the years we've worked up there, we had a little hook in there to be able to get something for you. So what we were able to attain was, if you can get it, a football signed by Urban Meyer. Couldn't be here himself, but football signed by Urban Meyer for you. To place on there is dedicated to you for thanks for your service to our city.
You're going to have a nice game room. Up next is Lieutenant Brian Truax, Lieutenant Paul Weiner, and Sergeant Rich Brooks of the Columbus Police Honor Guard. Welcome, gentlemen.
All right, well, we thought we really had the coolest gift up here until the mayor shows up and then Chief Quillen comes up with the football. But we thought we had probably the pretty coolest gift up here.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so okay, this is from the Honor Guard and the Pipes and Drum Band. As you guys all know, the Honor Guard has a special relationship with the chief in good times and in bad. And so we wanted to commemorate your service. And on the back of this, there's an inscription with our patches from the Honor Guard and the Pipes and Drums that says, thank you for your many years of service to the citizens of Columbus and from the men and women of the Pipes and Drums and the Honor Guard. The front of the barrelhead, which, by the way, this was made by two retired Columbus police officers, Andy Ward and Kareem Kashmiri. And you'll notice in the background is the city of Columbus skyline, along with all of your badges and all your promotion dates that shows your path through the division up to today. It's also got your three Ps from your mission statement with purpose, passion, and pride. And it also has in your banner of your service dates, 1st and 32nd, and illustrating that you're the first chief of police and the 32nd first female police chief and the 32nd chief of Columbus Police. So hopefully you'll find a spot for that. If you need any help hanging it, you can call one of us.
A simple line to invite the guest of honor to come to the dais, but I also have to take a moment and say this city is going to miss you, Kim Jacobs. She has served with honor and dignity. You look at this force, it's a diversified force, but it's also a force that serves with a single purpose, to serve and protect. And how many people can say they've devoted their entire life, their entire professional career to their city, to serving others, and done it with such dignity. We are going to miss you. You have been an amazing police chief. Please welcome to the stage Kim Jacobs.
Thank you isn't quite enough. And I know that a lot of you probably think now is a good time for me to say thank you, very profuse thank you. Let's go eat cake. But for those of you that do know me, know I have something to say, right? So anyhow, I knew this day was coming. I planned for it about 8 years ago. And so I've had a little bit of time to think about it, but I truly am overwhelmed between this today and the weeks of notes, cards, visits, calls from people throughout the division and the city. It's just been truly gratifying. My heart really, truly has swelled with joy. Saying that I thank everyone is just the understatement of the year, truly. A few kind words for the mayors, Director Brown, Director Pettis. Sorry, Council Member Brown, but you know, I know you as my boss. You know, you've allowed me to lead in the way that I envisioned doing so, and that's a privilege. You could have told me how to do it, but you didn't. You allowed me to do it the way I envisioned it, and that's important. If you're going to trust somebody to do it, trust them to do it their way, and I do truly appreciate that. You've allowed me to use the experience that I've had, the knowledge and the training that I've had to inspire, I hope, and to guide this very powerful safety force, the Columbus Division of Police. They've done amazing and life-saving deeds, and I thank you for that. Amy, Rich, Roy, and surprisingly, Pete. He doesn't like public speaking, so I'm shocked. It was important for me to hear from my friends, my coworkers. You know, despite the long hours and the effort that I put into it, I always have this question in my head, am I doing enough? Is my message being heard? Am I on the right track? And your words assured me that I was, so thank you very much. But I do have some true confessions. It's not one of my hobbies, but at times I really did feel like a magician. You know how magicians do their act and you know, people disappear into thin air, right? And or those plates are spinning in the air all the time and you know, you wonder how they keep it going. But what I know is it's not just the magician. There are amazing people behind scenes that are keeping it all going, and that's all of these people, and it's all of the people that I've worked with in the community that have allowed those plates to keep spinning. It wasn't me. The magician gets all the credit, right? The people behind the scenes don't always. But I know who was there behind the scenes keeping it all going, making things work. We've been a success because of all of that work from behind the scenes. Another confession, those things that seem like highlights, and I appreciate some of those things being pointed out, because sometimes newspapers don't tell it all, right? But those highlights, you know, being the first, this, whatever, aren't nearly as important to me. They're not the most exciting highlights in my mind. It's the greatest highlights, like riding my bike in the entire parade route for the Pride Parade last year with the whole bike team. You know, we were a few of us, and then the whole bike team. Just being able to ride up and down that parade route and recognize what our officers mean to the spectators that are there just seeking safety and a way to celebrate. Being with them is the highlight. Or being out at the substation and talking to some officers that had chased a bad guy with a gun. Had a little help from a citizen. And despite the guy with the gun, they made a really good decision, didn't shoot. They could have, but they didn't. Being able to talk to them about that excellent decision making, being with them and sharing that story is the highlight of my career. Another one was Christmas Eve working with Pete. Some of the people on A Precinct knew that I was out there, but not everybody, and so we show up on a possible burglary, and I jump out of the passenger seat, and the guy that was backing Pete up said, "Oh, what? The chief is here, or your mom is here." You didn't tell me she was with you. Of course, that's because he didn't want to work as a 2-officer car. He wanted to be a 1-officer car, thinking that I don't know how to do it, right? But I also love it when I can walk into a lot of places around town and recognize community members by their name and their face. And that's been a joy to be able to work with the people. Those are the highlights that matter most to me. Knowing that they have an idea of who I am and that they can trust me, and therefore they can allow that trust to be sent in the way of all of our other officers. Seeing the people that support us and being with them is the true highlight. My last confession. I'm almost done. I am in debt. I can't possibly pay back all the people that I owe so much to. And I'm not talking about money, believe me. I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about people that have helped me, guided me, supported me throughout my entire career. Back to my 8 precinct days on being my partner, Mike. Ex-husband for 20 years was there in the early days. I owe everyone a debt of gratitude from 15 precinct, moving on to the Patrol Administrative Office. So there's a debt of gratitude and a debt of love. I'll start with my family. Bobby, you didn't ask for this. You didn't ask for me to be police chief. You didn't have a vote. I said, I'm going for it, and you said, okay. And Sam and Pete, you didn't ask for it either, but you allowed me to do it, and you supported me throughout, and I truly appreciate that. You understood why I wanted to do it, why I needed to do it, and then you listened to the stories that I could only tell at home. You can't share those stories at work. You showed me your love and support throughout, and I owe you forever and ever. To my parents, Dottie, my father passed last year. You were there from the beginning, and it's been unconditional love and support ever since. My siblings, they're here. They've always been there for me, knowing that I'm the celebrity, if you will, in the family, and putting up with that. But with them, fortunately, I'm just Kim, number 4 out of 5. For my friends, for helping me bring some balance to my life and taking me away, especially on cruises where my phone doesn't work. Nobody can call you when you're in the middle of the ocean. For that balance, for letting me sing and travel and have fun. My church family, King Avenue United Methodist, and the pastors, First Grace and Atha, and John Keeney, Colleen Ogle, Linda Middleburg, and then my Blender family, who I get to sing with, my altos. So then there's my immediate staff. Tina, I don't know where you are, Tina. We've been partners for a long time, back in Chief Lanata's days. And Charlie, Rob Welday, Howie Pettingill, Andy Bardar, they got to see me up close and personal, but they took care of things that I didn't even know needed to be taken care of, and truly, I'm indebted to you. My executive staff, retired Deputy Chief, now Chief Steve Gamble, Ron Gray, then Rich Bash, Tim Becker, Ken Keebler, Tom Quinlan, Gary Dunlap, Mike Woods. I've always appreciated your input, your participation, and your perspectives. You have the baton now. I was a track person, I have a baton. I'm passing it on to you, and I know that you will lead strong and lead well. General staff, working with the FOP, it's been a privilege and an honor to work with all of the members of the Division of Police that have that leadership role. Talked about 8 precinct, 15 precinct, but communications, where my first commander job was, learned a lot there. Internal affairs, got some peeps from there, and Terry. And then the training bureau and what we did there, it's great stuff. But I appreciate working with City Council and the Mayor's office as well. Can't forget Jeff Furby. What I know is I'm smart enough to know when I need to talk to Jeff. And Dina now too. But Steve Dunbar was helpful in the past. Rick Pfeiffer and Zach Klein, thank you so much. All of the lawyers in that office have done so much for the Division of Police through training, guidance, advice, and keeping us on the right side of case law, constitutional law, and doing the right thing. And I truly appreciate all of that help. I owe you. I owe the community leaders that have been part of our community policing efforts. Police Foundation, thank you so much for allowing us. And Mr. Garlikov, thank you so much for allowing us to create training that is meaningful and makes a huge difference in the way that our police officers view the world and how they do their policing. And lastly, every single member of the Division of Police, current and retired. It has been a part of my life, part of mentoring me, for their sacrifice, their support, and their service that they provide to us all. I still live in the city of Columbus. I will live in the city of Columbus. I will look forward to being served by CPD. It's been the greatest privilege and honor of my life, and I'm blessed to be a part of the large family of CPD. Thank you, Colleen, for hosting this event, your friendship. I think really now is time for cake. But since this is my last opportunity to speak to you all, I just want you to know how much your support, nothing gets done by an individual, it gets done by a team. And I love being on this team. I'm gonna miss being on this team, but I'll be around. Thank you.
It is time for the benediction from Bishop Lysath, but again, let me say, Chief Jacobs, thank you for your service.
Just before we close out in prayer, Chief, I want to thank you. In 24 plus years, I've never seen Sergeant Richard Weiner cry. So thank you for that. And Pete, there is no such thing as a lowly patrol officer. And that's one thing we've learned from your mom. We all have value. You have tremendous value. And anyone that knows anything about a patrol officer knows that nothing else can happen in the division if it doesn't start with patrol. If we would bow our heads, it is by your grace that we close this celebration today. We want to say thank you for the grace that you have shown us through your daughter. We want to say thank you for the leadership that she has provided to us these past years together. We want to say thank you for faithfulness to duty, honor, and integrity. We want to say thank you for her perseverance, never giving up on any of us, and always finding a way to push us forward. We want to say thank you for Chief Jacobs never accepting that's just how we do it, but always pushing us to re-examine the things we do so we can do those very things better. We want to say thank you for giving her the courage to be the shield of the division and the determination to do all in her power so that the badge would never be tarnished. Truly, we are thankful for so many things regarding Chief Jacobs, but we are limited in time and vocabulary to properly express our gratitude. So let me ask this of you, Lord. Bless our chief, our dear friend, in the next things in her life. Open doors for her to continue to have an impact in this life. Grant to her your grace, that unmerited favor simply because you love her. Continue to work in and through her as she transitions from this chapter of life into her next. Keep your hand of protection upon her and grant to her your prosperity. Give unto her mind, body, and spirit the rest that can only come from time with you. The Lord bless you, the Lord keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you great peace, both now, forevermore. In the name of Jesus we pray, amen.
Thank you all for coming. One final round of applause for the woman of the hour, Kim Jacobs.